Hi everyone. Today, I'm going to show you how to use the monthly budget and weekly budget spreadsheet. First, go to the Setup tab. Before you start adding anything to the spreadsheet, please click the checkbox. This will indicate where you can add your information. Make sure not to enter anything in areas that are not marked with a darker yellow color, as those sections contain hidden formulas. If you change a formula by mistake, the spreadsheet may stop working properly. Next, you'll see a section for currency. Here, you can change it to any currency you prefer. Below that, you'll find the starting balance. Enter your starting amount here, and when you move to the monthly budget tab or weekly budget tab, be sure to check the rollover checkbox. If you want the starting balance to be added to your monthly budgeting or weekly budgeting. If you not simply leave the checkbox unchecked. Under each main category, you should enter subcategories. In the setup, you can add as many subcategories as you want. However, remember that on the monthly budget or weekly budget spreadsheet, you can only choose up to 20 subcategories for each category. You can use different subcategories for different months. If you have two subcategories with the same name, even if they are in different categories, the sheet will highlight them in red, prompting you to change one of them. If you do not make this change, it will affect the sheet's calculations, especially if the subcategories are in the monthly budget or weekly budget tab. For example, if you already have a subcategory named Car and you recently added another subcategory called Car, the sheet will highlight this duplicate. You should rename the most recently added subcategory to something like Car 1 or Red Car. It's important to rename the last added subcategory, not the first one, as you may have already used the first one in the monthly and transaction tabs. If you delete or rename the first one, you will see red marks on the transaction tracker and monthly budget, and all calculations will be affected. This could lead to incorrect results due to the same name being used for subcategories, especially if they are from the same month. Now, let's move on to the monthly budget tab. The main difference between the monthly budget tab and the weekly budget tab is how the dates are handled. In the monthly budget tab, when you select a starting date, let's say October 11th, the spreadsheet will automatically calculate the end date for the month, which will be November 10th. So, please do not enter an end date in the monthly budget tab or weekly budget tab. It will be calculated for you. However, in the weekly budget tab, Spreadsheet will calculate only 1 week for you. If you choose starting date October 11th, the spreadsheet will automatically calculate a week for you, which will be October 17th. Before you begin editing anything, I recommend duplicating one of the sheets. This way, if you have any major changes next month, like adjusting budgets or adding subcategories, you'll have a backup to refer to. You can hide the duplicate sheet if you don't want to see it, and you can also rename it to keep things organized. To get started, go to the monthly or weekly tab. Next, use the drop-down menus to select subcategories for each main category. You can add the subcategories in any order, and you don't need to include all of them. Only add the ones that are relevant for the specific month or week. Before you add due dates and budgets, let me show you a quick tip. If you have the same subcategories for both weekly and monthly budgeting and want to track both of them, you can duplicate the sheet. Once you've done that, go to the left corner under the name of the month. You'll see an option that says Monthly or Weekly Budget with a drop-down arrow. Click on it and you'll be able to choose either the weekly or monthly budget. This way, you won't have to re-enter everything again. Change the sheet name. After you've done that, you can add due dates on both the monthly and weekly budget spreadsheets. Keep in mind that the due dates in the monthly and weekly budgeting tabs don't affect this or any other sheets. They're just there as a reminder for you. Enter your budget amount in the designated field. Please note that there is a small line before the amount for the currency symbol. Do not enter any information or make changes in that area, as it is reserved for displaying the currency. The currency symbol will appear automatically once you enter your budget amount. This process works the same way across all sheets. Next, add your budget amounts in the monthly and weekly budget tabs. Remember, the monthly and weekly tabs are independent of each other. You can use them separately based on your preference, whether you're budgeting on a weekly or monthly basis. Alternatively, if you're only using one tab, simply enter your budget in that tab. About actual and difference columns, please don't enter anything in the actual and difference columns on this sheet. Instead, you'll need to record your actual income and expenses in the Transaction Tracker tab. The Monthly Budget and Weekly tab will automatically pull that information over to the actual column. The difference will also be calculated for you automatically based on the numbers you enter in the transaction sheet. So, remember, all your actual spending and income should be entered in the Transaction Tracker sheet, and everything else will update for you. Calculations between the budgeted amount and actual spending work as follows. The sheet simply subtract the actual amount from the budgeted amount to determine the difference. In the income category, if you budgeted $1,000 and your actual income is $1,200, as entered in the transaction tracker, the difference will show as plus $200, indicating that you earned more than planned. Conversely, if your actual income is $800, the difference will show as negative $200. This principle applies specifically to the income category. For all other categories, the calculation works in reverse. For instance, if you budgeted $10 and spent $12, the difference will show as minus $2. Conversely, if you budgeted $12 and spent $10, it will show as plus $2. Next to some categories, you'll find checkboxes. You can check these off after you've paid certain expenses. This acts as a helpful reminder, but it won't affect any calculations in this or any other spreadsheet. At the end of the month, you'll need to uncheck the checkboxes manually. Here's a quicker way to do it. Uncheck and highlight the first checkbox, then look for the small dot in the corner. Drag it down, but do not drag over the total row at the bottom. If you accidentally drag past it, an error will appear. Just cancel it and drag the selection down to the last row before the total row, and all checkboxes will be unchecked. You'll need to repeat this process 4 times. Remember, do not drag all the way down at once, as this may disrupt hidden formulas. Now, I'll walk you through the left side of the sheet. On the left, you'll see a rollover checkbox. If you check this, the starting balance from the first budgeting month, $100 in our case, which we entered on setup sheet on the beginning, will be added to the current month's total. This means that any leftover money from this month will carry over to the next month's balance, as long as the rollover checkbox is checked. You'll also notice a section that shows totals, including budgeted amounts. The budgeting amount includes the budgeted amounts for all categories, excluding the income budgeting amount. Total spent. Here, you can see all the money you've spent. Balance for the next month. This represents the money left to spend this month that you haven't used. If the rollover checkbox is clicked, this amount will be transferred to the next month. Left to budget. This amount represents your budgeted income minus all other categories. This way, you can see how much you still have available to budget. And finally, left to spend your actual income minus all your actual spending. Underneath, you'll find a cash flow overview. At the top, you can see how much you've actually spent or earned. Just below that, it shows how much you can still spend in green, or how much you've overspent in red. The income section works the same way as I explained earlier about actual amounts and differences. In green, you can see how much extra money you've earned, and in red, you'll see how much more you need to earn or how much you didn't reach your budgeted goal. You'll also see your top 10 expenses for the current month. Below that, you can find an overview of your daily spending amounts. At the very top of the sheet, there's a balance overview. The budget versus actual section displays how much you budgeted and how much you've spent. And next to it is a breakdown of your categories by percentage of actual spending. To delete information on the monthly budget and weekly tab, remember that you can only delete entries marked with a dark yellow color. To identify the information you can delete, simply check the checkbox on the setup sheet. Any information that isn't marked with a darker yellow color cannot be deleted. It will disappear if you delete information from the marked row. Be especially careful with the debt section, as it is also marked with yellow, but the color is slightly lighter than the deletable sections. Important, You cannot highlight the entire row and delete it due to the currency sign. Here's what to do. Choose the subcategory you want to remove and press the delete button. After you press delete, the actual and difference values for that subcategory will disappear automatically. Repeat the same process for any due categories. Skip the currency sign. When you delete the budget amount, the currency sign will automatically disappear. When your month or week is finished and you have the same categories and budgets, there's no need to start a new tab. Just change the date at the top. For example, if the end date of the previous month was November 11th, this month will start on November 12th. Simply update the date, and the sheet will automatically calculate the new month or week for you, updating all actuals and differences accordingly. If you'd like to edit the budget or change subcategories but want to keep track of the previous month, you can duplicate the sheet. This allows you to modify the information you want while maintaining a record of the prior month. You can hide the previous month's sheet if you prefer not to see it. Alternatively, you can use the empty sheet we duplicated at the beginning of our video and make another duplicate for a spare. If you click the rollover checkbox, any leftover amount from the previous month will carry over to this month. If you want to delete some subcategories from the middle or elsewhere, you can easily fill the gap by moving the last subcategory from the bottom up. Simply delete the last one, then choose an option from the drop-down menu to fill the empty space. Add the budget amount. This way, you'll reduce the risk of making mistakes with deletions, movements, or formulas. Alternatively, if you need to add new subcategories for this month, simply fill in the empty spaces where you deleted the subcategories from the previous month. Please update the due date and budget amount for the new category. If you accidentally delete a formula or change information on any of the sheets, don't worry. You can easily revert your changes. Use the undo arrow. At the top of the screen, you'll see an arrow icon. Click it to go back a step. You can continue clicking it to go back multiple steps if needed. Keyboard shortcut. Alternatively, you can use the shortcut Command plus Z on Mac or Ctrl plus Z on Windows to undo your last action. It's important to know that if you close the page or reload it, the undo function will not work. The back button can only revert actions from the current session while you were entering information. Once you refresh or close the page, those changes cannot be undone. Let's move to Transaction Tracker. At the top, you'll see the Analytics board where you can easily pick a starting date for analyzing the sheet. The spreadsheet will automatically calculate the month or week for you, depending which frame you will choose from drop-down menu. It will display your total spending for the selected period, along with a summary of your total income and all your expenses, including debt, savings, bills, subscriptions, and expenses. You'll also find a breakdown for the chosen period, giving you a clearer picture of where your money goes. Next to that, there's a daily spending breakdown, which helps you see exactly when your money is being spent. If you scroll down, you can access the top 20 expenses analysis, followed by a ranking of your expenses from highest to lowest for the selected time frame. As you scroll down, you can add your spending or income. Select the date from the calendar by double-clicking on the cell. Next, enter the amount. Please avoid entering anything in the narrow line, as it's reserved for the currency symbol. To enter a decimal amount, like $60.76, type the whole number first, 60, then use a dot, not a comma, and finally type the decimal part, 76. You'll also need to choose a category and subcategory for your entries. Additionally, there's an option to add comments if you'd like to provide more details about your transactions. Sometimes, when you select the date, enter the amount, and choose a category, you might see false instead of the subcategories. Don't worry, this just means your sheet is processing. If you see a blue line loading in the right corner, it indicates that the sheet is analyzing information or adding up values. You can click somewhere else and then open the drop-down menu again to see the subcategories. Let's discuss how to delete incorrect information or transactions that were entered by mistake. You cannot select the entire row and delete it. Instead, follow these steps. First, click on the cell with the date and delete it. Second, select the amount. Click on just the number, not the currency sign, and delete it. Next, select Category, Subcategory, and Notes one by one, and delete the information as well. If you're missing data in the Monthly Budget tab or Weekly Budget tab, I've created a warning message for any missing subcategories. For example, if you add an entry to the transaction tracker for $100 spent on October 25th for saving for new furniture, and another $100 on November 1st for paying off debt, credit card too, you'll notice a warning sign next to the savings and debt categories in the Monthly Budget tab. Let's move to Monthly Budget tab. You'll see a little star next to the category, indicating that a subcategory is missing. When you scroll down, you'll find details such as the date, amount, category, and subcategory information that was added in the transaction tracker but not yet included in the monthly budget. Until you add this subcategory to the monthly budget, it won't affect any calculations on that sheet, but it will impact our charts. Let's move to 50/30/20 tab. This tab is optional to use. At the top of the sheet, you'll see a drop-down menu where you can choose whether you'd like the sheet to calculate your budget on a weekly or monthly basis. You can change this setting at any time. After selecting the period, choose your starting date. The end date will be calculated automatically. Next, scroll down to find the percentage breakdown section. Here, you'll enter your percentages for needs and wants. It's important how you enter the percentage. First way is click only once with U-mouse. Do not delete anything, just enter the amount. Second way is you double-click and move your cursor in front, or the percentage sign after delete the number and enter your percentage. Important, do not delete percentage sign. If you do, the formula will disappear. If you did as you remember, just undo and formula will come back. The totals for savings plus debt will be calculated automatically based on your inputs. Do not enter there anything. Important. If your combined needs and wants exceed 100%, the savings and debt section will prompt you to adjust your percentages. Make sure the total for needs and wants is equal to or less than 100%. Actual percentage and amount breakdown will be calculated and filled up automatically, so enter information only into goal percentage breakdown. And amount breakdowns will update automatically as you enter your data. Remember, you should never enter data directly into the savings and debt fields. Always input your information in the needs and wants section. Allocate your needs and wants. After you've set your percentages, scroll down to allocate your needs and wants according to your budget. Just choose to each category from drop-down menu Want or Need. If you choose Wants to some subcategory, let's say Want, and you want to track down its have to stay as Want. If you will change it from Wants to Needs, then in all the months, which you will track back, it will show always in Needs. Debt, savings, and income don't have to be allocated. It's automatically transferred. Review previous month's expenses. If you want to see your expenses from the previous month, simply change the starting date to the desired month. The sheet will adjust to show you that breakdown. Expense breakdown. Next to the allocation section, you'll find a breakdown of your highest to lowest expenses for the selected date range. This will help you identify where your money is going. If you move to the top, you will find goal versus actual breakdown. Next to it, you will find overview, how much you earned in selected period, how much you spent on your needs, wants, debt plus saving. Next to it, you will see debt and saving breakdown. Let's move to calendar. Important instructions for using the sheet. Please pay close attention to the following rules. Do not change colors. Keep the original colors as they are. No adding or deleting rows or columns. This is crucial to maintain the sheet's integrity. Do not delete checkboxes. They are essential for tracking payments. No adding or deleting information directly into the calendar. Everything have to be added or deleted from calendar on the setup on the bottom of the sheet. First, take a moment to understand what you can and cannot do with this sheet. It contains sensitive formulas that must be preserved, so it's essential to follow these guidelines. Now, let's get started. First, at the top, select a starting date of the month. Then, decide which day you'd like the week to start on. Please be patient when changing the month or starting day of the week in the spreadsheet, as it may take some time to update, especially depending on your device's performance. In the top right corner, you might see a blue loading line. This means the sheet is updating or processing information. You have to remember this sheet contains a lot of formulas, and when you're changing months or start and day of the week, you have be a bit patient. Sometimes I take time for sheet to change the month or starting date. It's as well depends how powerfume device you have. After that, scroll down to add the payments you want to show on the calendar. How to add payments? To add payments, first select the subcategory from the drop-down menu, such as Main Income. For example, if you want to record a payment starting on October 14th at a monthly frequency of $2,500, you won't need an end date since you're still employed. Your main income will then be displayed each month on the 14th until you decide to add an end date. One more example. Here's another example. If you have a car payment of $10 that occurs twice a week on Tuesday and Friday, start by selecting Car from the drop-down menu twice. For the first payment, set the start date to October 15th and the frequency to once a week with an amount of $10. For the second payment, set the start date to October 18th with the same frequency and amount. This way, you can track the same subcategory on different days within the same week. A quick note about frequency. If you choose weekly and your first payment is on October 21st, which is a Monday, every subsequent payment will occur on Monday. If you select bi-weekly, the payment will appear every 2 weeks on the same day. For monthly and yearly payments, they will show on the same date each month. For instance, if you choose October 15th, it will appear on the 15th of every month. The drop-down menu includes options for income, debt, subscriptions, and bill subcategories, which align with the subcategories we established earlier on the setup sheet. On the far right, you'll find the Other Payment category. Here, you can enter any subcategory name directly on this sheet. Simply input the subcategory name, followed by the frequency, date, and amount, and it will function just like the other entries. For example, let's say this month I have a payment for an extra school uniform. Since we already have a school uniform subcategory set up, we will name this entry Uniform Extra. Since this is a one-time payment, we'll set both the start and end date to October 27th. For frequency, we can choose any option, but to keep the sheet less cluttered, we'll select Yearly. We'll enter the amount as $25. Even if we select Daily for the frequency, it will still show only once on the calendar because of the specified end date. Now, let's add more payments. Important. You cannot delete or add anything directly from the calendar. All changes must be made from the calendar setup at the bottom of the sheet. If you try to delete or add anything directly on the calendar, it will disrupt the entire functionality of the sheet. Checkboxes will appear next to any subcategory shown on the calendar. On the left, you'll see an Overview section. Here, you can view your income for the month, which you set up on this tab. Next to that, you'll see the Total to Pay, which is the amount due within the selected time frame. When you check the checkboxes, you can track how much you've paid and how much is left to pay. Under the Overview, you'll also find a Bill Overview. The top number indicates how much you need to pay in total, while the number below shows how much you have already paid. This is how checkboxes influence this sheet. On the right, you'll get a weekly total for your expenses. This total reflects the amounts due for the week, including bills, subscriptions, debts, and other payments. Note that this calculation does not include income. If you change the month, the checkboxes will remain checked in the same places. So, how to uncheck them? You need to uncheck them before you change to the next month. To uncheck a box, select the top checkbox to clear it. In the corner of the checkbox, you'll see a small dot. Just hold and drag it down to uncheck the other boxes in that column. Repeat this for each column with checkboxes. In this calendar, the calculations are influenced by the checkboxes. If you clear them, you won't be able to see how much you've paid in the past months. And that's how you set everything up. Please follow these instructions carefully to ensure everything works as intended. Enjoy this sheet and have a great time budgeting. Thank you.